Today I'm going to be showing you how to generate a graph in Excel that displays data along two different x-axes. I'm going to be using USGS gauge data from last summer when the flooding occurred in July, and I'm going to be comparing it to when Hurricane Irene hit Vermont in 2011. So the first thing we're going to do is start typing in a browser, if it'll do it, USGS. And for the sake of this video, I'll be using Montpelier data. So this first website that pops up is what you're going to want to click on, and it brings you here, but we're going to want to click on this legacy real-time page, which will allow us to change our dates and output formats. So for 2023, the flooding happened in July. We'll be doing the 10th to the 12th. 2023, and then for this output format we want to make sure that we have tabs separated selected, and then we'll hit go. Then it'll bring you to this text file which you can save. I'll save it as 2023 flood data, and I have a folder that I'd like to put this in. But make sure that you have a place to save this, and then we will go back and do it again for the 2011 dates, which happened in August, and we will be doing the 27th to the 29th. Making sure that, again, tab separated is still selected, and then you can hit go. Save this again, and we'll do 2011 flood data and save it. So those are done downloading now, and we can open up an Excel workbook, go to File, and so we'll go to Browse and make sure here that All Files is selected, so that it'll open up the option for us to import our text documents, and we will open the 2011 data. Here we'll make sure that delimited is selected, and then we have to scroll down because there is metadata in this file, so we just want to find where the data actually starts. And here that's going to be on line 29. Hit next. In this delimiters section, we'll just make sure that tab is selected, hit next again, and then finish. And now all of our data is here, separated out into cells. I know that this row is not important, so I'm just going to delete it. And then we're going to do the same thing for the 2023 data. Open it up. And the same situation. We'll make sure that this delimited option is selected. Scroll down through the metadata to find where our data actually starts. And on this one, it's on line 28. Again, tab is selected here, next, and finish. Delete this row because I know it's not important. And perfect. So we're going to move this 2023 data into the workbook with our 2011 data and move it to the end so that it'll just make everything a little bit easier when we start making the graph. But there is a lot of data points in this file. During this flood, the gauge readings started happening every 5 minutes, so there's over like 600 points here. So we're going to sort it out. Click on the column up here that you'd like to sort. We're going to be doing date and time, and do filter and sort, and filter. There's a couple different ways to do this. The one that's a little bit more tedious and time consuming is you would go into each day, which is broken down by the hour, and deselect the times that you wouldn't want. For this graph, I'm going to just be wanting to use the data for the top of the hour and at the half hour. So a little bit of an easier way to do this is to sort it by the minute and then do 00, and click OK, and then we'll go back in and do it again for the half hour. Scroll up and then add this to the selection, and now we have our data points only for the start of the hour and the half hour. So I'm going to do that again, but for the 2011 data, Perfect. Now we have both of our data sets sorted and filtered, so we can start making our graph now. We'll go to Insert and Charts. I'm going to be doing a scatter plot, and we'll make it a little bit bigger just because I know this is going to be quite a large graph to look at. So we'll right click, or for me, click with 2 fingers and select your data. We'll go to Add. This one we'll do 2011, and the X values here are going to be our date and time. Just making sure not to select your header because that'll mess things up a little bit. And then the Y values are going to be our gauge readings. So same thing. I'm using the Horizon software that you can use to make your Mac or Windows, so my commands are a little bit different, and it's just easier to do the dragging for this part, but there are ways to do it differently. And then we'll click OK, and then we'll do Add again, and this time we'll be doing the 2023 data, the X values, so we can see that we're calling on this sheet now. And again, we'll drag down to select all of these points. And then just to avoid any kind of conflict, we're going to get rid of this so that it's not double calling on anything. And again, for the gauge data. Perfect. And we'll click OK. And now we have both of our data sets on one graph, but obviously it doesn't look very good because it's all on one x-axis right now. So we're going to go up here to change chart type and hit combo, and making sure that both of your series are selected as scatter. And then the 2011 we will have on the secondary axis. So we'll click OK. But right now there's 2 x-axes and 2 y-axes, but we'd like to show this data on the same range for the y-axis. So we'll be getting rid of the secondary vertical option, and that's what that does. But still, it looks a little silly. It's kind of hard to read the x-axis labels because they're so close together. So we can format this a little bit. If you double click on either of the x-axes, it'll bring you to this axis options. Here, I'm just going to be rounding up the minimum. Oh, I guess not. Maybe the other way. Yeah, there we go. Rounding up the minimum so that it brings the data all the way to the edge of the plot, and then rounding up. Nope. Rounding down to the nearest full number to bring it over there as well. And that looks good for now. So then we will do the 2023. And now we can add an axis title for the y-axis. Just to tell everyone that this is discharge, which occurs at cubic feet per second. We can add a legend to tell you which colors are referring to which data sheets. And then we can also format our points a little bit just to make them look a little bit nicer, because the default is always orange and blue. So we'll go to marker. We can click on marker options, change this to built-in. Let's do some diamonds for this one. Change the color. I like green, so let's do green. Perfect. And then for this one, we can change it to, let's do triangles and purple. Perfect. So now we have our gauge data from 2 different time periods being shown on one chart. So obviously, during this whole process, you're going to want to be saving just to make sure that you don't lose anything. You can also export this chart if you only need the chart and not the data. But other than that, that's pretty much it. You have a chart that has two different sets of data on one Y scale for two different time periods. Thanks.